Good evening, and you're very welcome to one of the last episodes of the season here on the League of Ireland Women's podcast on finewhistle.ie. I'm Breffney Early, and I'm going with you for the next hour or so with, of course, Aaron Clark of the WNL show. Well, I suppose the big news of the week should be that Athlone won the league. And it is on the pitch, but there's been so much happening off the pitch that we're going to get stuck into over the next hour or so. It's going to be an interesting show, to say the least. Plenty of news. The League of Ireland Women's division has been all over the news all week. Athlone, of course, let's start there because that's probably the big news. We're going to talk about some retirements. Niamh Reid Burke, obviously a veteran goalkeeper within the league, Peamount United, and Raheny, star over the years, as well as a couple of caps for for Ireland women's national team, most famously probably against the USA in the USA back in the day. Fabulous player, fabulous athlete, really, really nice person as well on top of all of that. I'm sure if you have any differences of opinion, let us know. But any of my dealings with her, she's been an absolute stellar person as well off the pitch, and had the pleasure of working with her many, many moons ago in her infancy within the game, and to watch her develop. She really has been a breath of fresh air and kind of just, I suppose, excellence personified through her performances, winning I don't even know how many league medals. Is it 5 or 6 she's got now?
I have it all. I'll tell you in a minute. I have it all there because I tweeted about it last night.
Yeah, it's a low. I think she's the most winningest player in the league ever. I think we had that situation last year. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be a fairy tale ending to her career this year with Peamount, but she did win a game in the Champions League this year. She has been very, very impressive all season. There's going to be other retirements too. We might allude to a few of them earlier. There's a bit of confusion about whether we can talk about it or not. We'll get into that in a few minutes. There's rumors circulating online. It's been announced in certain places. There is an embargo, which means technically we're not allowed to talk about it till tomorrow. We'll talk about that probably in greater detail later in the program. If you're watching the show, you probably know who we're talking about, though. It is everywhere online. Just look up retirement FAI. You'll probably find it on whatever social media platform you want.
We just don't want to mention names because we want to stay in the good books, and
we're staying in everyone's good books. We were told there's an embargo. We're sticking to the embargo.
Although we will have things across socials just to recognise the player in particular tomorrow. I was going to do something myself this evening when I seen others, but Breffney's taught me around this, so we'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, the player herself has come out as well. So if you follow the league, you know who we're talking about. But there is an embargo. We're not going to name names on the show tonight, unless we get clearance. We ask for permission. If we get permission, we will plow ahead. But I don't think we will. I think
let's talk Nemo.
Let's talk Nemo, because I think she came out the other day with an announcement through the club that that Saturday will be her last game in Peamount shirt. We have seen retirements reversed before. She's still only in her heyday as a goalkeeper. Yeah, she's a couple more years left in her if she wants to maybe rethink that over the winter. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her back in football at some level. Or I also wouldn't be surprised if it's an absolutely clean break. I know her career is fairly intense and full on. She has been recently married, and life gets busy when you hit that stage of life. But I think on the football terms, one of the league's standouts over the last decade or more. Your thoughts?
You spoke very highly about her. Maybe I might speak the opposite direction. I'm only messing. Listen,
she will kill you.
I've known Nemo a long, long time. Got speaking to her many times on many different things, and it's the simplest little things with people. Things like Nemo, it's like you walk by, you're coming into Peamount. It's a simple little hello, how are you? Short. And the one thing I will say is it's an awful shame she has so little Ireland caps. You mentioned at the start of the show, that game against the USA, that was the one they lost 1-0. I think she had the game of her life in the States, and I'll still remember fondly because without her that night, it probably would have been 6, 7, 8 goals. And you look at what she's done. Has she had a perfect career? No. Has she had lots of blips when herself and Amanda McQuillan tossed and turned for the number 1 at Shels? Then you look at her time at Peamount, she tossed and turned at stages with Anisha McAloon. I'd love to go and actually calculate how many League of Ireland appearances she has, because she would definitely have. I'd say she'd have to have well over the 200 mark at this stage. You did mention most winningest player in the league. She has 6 League of Ireland medals. She's the only one to have 6. One with Raheny. She's got 2 with she's got 2 at Raheny, 1 with Shels, and 3 with Peamount. Like, I think when you look at Nemo, you look at. I think a lot of people say it's not even necessarily the goalkeeping ability as well, as much as that's is quite high. It's what she brought as a person, what she brought to the dressing room. Like, she was that when you watch Peamount, she was that with her voice at the behind the goal. The one thing I will always remember at Nemo, and I used to always laugh about it, and I used to get quite a chuckle out of it, was when other goalkeepers were annoying her over how long they were taking for kickouts, and she just really loud start screaming 1, 2. I used to just, and that sort of thing. She was one of these that
She still
I
is.
think
That's not what it was. Like, she's not dead.
no,
She still is.
no, yeah, she's one of the goalkeepers that sort of helped to bring the standard of goalkeeping on in this league 10, 15 fold from where it was to where it is now. You said about her potentially, if she wanted, she could play another couple of years. I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that at all. And the thing is, the easy option to say is if she'd have went out last year, going out in the high, going out with that Champions League win. But sometimes it's also hard to say enough is enough. And wasn't to be this season. She's had some really good moments for Peamount this year. But overall, I think she'll go down as one of them footballers that will be massively recognised winning the game. It probably won't happen, what I'm going to say next, but it's something I'd love to see, sort of becoming on the likes of a goalkeeping coach. I know she's very busy with the stuff she does outside of work. I think she, what she's been able to pass on to young goalkeepers as well has been massive. And I think she's the sort of person, and when she steps out of the league, you'll then really notice the void that she's left. And
100%.
I think that speaks volumes for Nemo.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose I haven't spoken to her in a while. We did cross paths at a wedding about a year and a half ago. Won't mention the player, but it
About
was
2 years ago at this stage.
but we had a long chat because we actually ended up, when I left a job at one stage, she actually came in and filled a role within that company and took on a lot of the work that I've been doing. So we were kind of looking back 10 years later at a job that we both filled almost, just kind of comparing notes. We very, very loosely crossed paths on the same side of the white line with the Leinster Colleges team back in, I'm going to say, 2000 or mid 2000s, a long time ago now. It's nearly 20 years. Wouldn't be quite 20 years, but it'd be like 15 or 16 years since she would have been involved at that level. But definitely would have played against her, had teams play against her back in the DWSL of old, in the mid noughties, 2005 2006 kind of direction, with Dublin City and with UCD when I was involved with those two sides. And super impressive from mid-teens, and really you knew she was going to be a bit of a star in the league. Now, I'm saying this about Nemo, there's probably another dozen or 15 players that we might not see in the league next year. I know off air we talked about a few possibilities of players that we feel may be considering their position. We're not going to put pressure on them by naming names, but a lot of them will probably come off most people's tongues in terms of just on the tip of it, just in terms of who might be thinking about it. We saw a few players go at Wexford last season. We might see one or two there this year. We kind of we're speculating off air.
Do you know what's funny? And we haven't really given her the due she deserves. Is Adele Kennedy. She just slipped into the background and was like, come the start of the season, it's like, oh yeah, it's a difference prepping for the season, and you're sort of like, no announcement, no nothing. Adele just was like, see you later, bye, I'm done. And I think a lot of players tend to do that in the sense of the spotlight, but I think with the way the league is now, it's a lot more difficult, especially when you look at some of the more high-profile names, like even Nemo being an Ireland international. It's obviously going to pick up a bit of traction. It's going to pick up that bit of spotlight. Like, I think even there's several players in the league who potentially aren't Irish internationals, but would pick up a similar sort of spotlight because of the way the league is gone now. Like, even in the sense of seeing retirement sort of being announced this early is a bit unusual, or not unusual. It's a bit of a surprise in terms of the women's league, because normally we don't tend to see them. But I think it's a good. I also like the fact that if you're going to go, have that send off, get that send off you deserve, especially if you've won 6 league titles. And I would highly expect that both teams on Saturday in PRL Park will give Nemo a guard of honor as she comes onto the pitch, or definitely Peamount will. I mean, I think that's the sort of way that she's recognised, and I hope fans get out and sort of watch her that one last time.
Let's leave the retirements there for a minute. We will come back to it later in the program because there's plenty to talk about. There's plenty of news items we have to kind of mention at various points throughout the show tonight. But let's go back to the football. Let's start with the games last week, and let's start with that title deciding game on TG Cahir between Athlone Town and Bohemians. I suppose we knew earlier in the day with Shels winning, and we knew going into the weekend that an Athlone win would secure them the league title on head-to-head. Worst case scenario, if Shels lost, it would be on points automatically. They did exactly what was said on the tin. 2 early goals. They really didn't give Bows much of a chance in this game. How impressive were the entire Athlone Town? We talked about last week.
I wasn't. I think first half. I thought Athlone were so nervous. I thought Athlone were. Up until the first goal, I thought they were very nervous. Bows had some good going forward, and you could even hear when Gemma Murphy at half time started saying about the first half performance wasn't great. I'm gonna say this now, and you're winning the league, and I don't want to sort of put a bit of a sour taste on it. But for me, when you're 2-0 up in that game, and they're talking about TG Cahir at half time with Maddie Gibson having a slight injury, they're not sure if she'll make the 90 minutes. She should have been just whipped up. She should have just been pulled off. Maddie, next week, you're not playing. You have 2 weeks in the cup final. Take it easy. We'll just get you through. I think at that stage, 2-0, there was never no coming back. I think realistically, in terms of the second half, I think Athlone will probably be very disappointed that it was only 2-0. I thought Brenda Tabby, every time she went forward, looked so dangerous. The first goal for me, Rachel Kelly doesn't make a lot of mistakes all year. But it was a woeful clearance when she just kicked the ball straight to the Athlone player, and it was a lovely finish down by Maddie Gibson. Kelly Brennan's goal. One we have to talk about the turn. What a turn! And it just shows like Brennan is the sort of player who's come on 6-fold, 7-fold in the last 2 years, like the likes of Roisin Malloy. And like we talk about Maddie Gibson getting a lot of the spotlight, but the likes of Malloy, Laurie Ryan, these sort of players, they don't tend to get that limelight, whereas the likes of the high-profile player and the Maddie Gibsons are. And I think we probably haven't, when we look back and reflect how far Athlone come, even since last year, I'd say when you look in deep, I'd say so many of our players have made so much improvements this year from where they were last year, and as a team, how much they've actually stepped up and stepped on. I think they've had 2 draws and 2 defeats in 19 games. Like 15 wins is massive, especially considering how competitive this league has been.
How important has Katie Keane been to that side as well? You haven't mentioned her yet, but we've talked about her a number of times through the season. She has been super impressive. Right?
Do you know what's funny? She probably should. Man, this is not being disrespectful to Amanda McQuillan, who's had a very good year. But she probably should have been that Shelbourne number 1 goalkeeper last year. That opportunity was there, and when she took that chance to go to Athlone, she has just been sublime. I don't think she's going to be in the league within maximum 18 months. I don't think she's going to be in the league. I think she'll be gone out of this league.
Cross channel?
Yeah, I've no doubt she's a smashing goalkeeper. I think when you look at the trajectory and the developments that she's had, she's just got better and better and better. The more senior football she's played, the better she's got. I think she's grown into a nice leader at the back there at the defence for Athlone. The funny thing is when we look at Athlone, we sort of touched on this last week is the injuries as well. Losing Chloe Singleton, Kerry Ann Brown's injured. Then you're also Casey Howe going mid-season. Just didn't affect them. It's like when the signing of Tabe.
Yeah, well, Tabe's a very decent replacement for any of those players.
Like, I think she scored is 8 goals in 9 league games.
Who, Tabe?
Tabe.
Yeah, I don't have a tan, but yeah, she's been impressive. But I think for me, and I know again we crossed paths with her as a youngster under 17 level. She was Player of the Year for Sligo Rovers in their debut season in the under 17 league back in 2018. She stood out then. Now there were some decent players, and a load of whom have gone on to play in the league. But she was the Player of the Year. She was probably the leader of that group. Very quiet leader, but leader nonetheless. And she really was prepared to get stuck in and really get involved. And we're seeing that from her now. I think she has probably been one of the catalysts herself, Katie Keenan. I think another one we haven't mentioned as well. The two Brennans, of course, have been stellar all season, but Jessie Rosman has been really, really solid for me as well at the heart of the defence for Athlone.
Yeah, you haven't even mentioned Roisin Malloy's name. You mentioned Sligo, and I knew straight away who you were talking about.
It's obvious. I thought it was obvious.
I knew straight away who you were talking about.
For me, she has probably been their best player this year. I know Maddie Gibson gets to call them inches. We talked about it last week. They were both up for player of the month. I said that Malloy should win it, but that Gibson probably would based on reputation. That did transpire. But I think for me, and we saw some of the movements from Malloy, particularly in the last couple of weeks when that title has been on the line. I've been really, really impressed with her once again.
Oh, Malloy has just been ultra consistent this year, and I think she's right up there. She's right up there for me as one of the best players this year, and not even just on Athlone. And I think that's a lot of credit. And like as I said earlier, I think Laurie Ryan has also been very good for them. Laurie Ryan has also had to step up massively when Chloe Singleton got injured.
Yeah.
Because Chloe was probably on one of that sort of similar trajectory to Roisin in the sense of they were the two best Athlone players in the first half of the season. Casey Howe was very, very good. But they, for me, were the best two players for Athlone in the first half of the season. And when she goes down, let's still remember when she goes down and talk. That game to me was so poignant in the sense that they went 1-0 down literally a minute, 2 minutes after play resumed. So easy to just lose that game 3-4-0. Your head is gone. I think the leadership that was shown that day in Ferrycarrig Park from Athlone has really, really taken them sort of towards the step that they got to taking that league title. And I think we don't give a lot of credit to Kieran Kilduff. I think Kieran Kilduff, his coaching staff, have been absolutely sublime this year in what they've done in Athlone. I'm going to say this now, and I have a big fear over Kieran Kilduff. I have a big fear that some Premier Division job, or if the likes of say Dundalk were to go down, they come looking for a Kieran Kilduff as manager or their first team. I have that sort of fear because that's how high his reputation is getting at this minute. And I think
he got the job just over 12 months ago, and he's won every the major Republic of Ireland domestic trophies that are there. He's won the cup, he's won the league, they're in the cup final. They're also, nobody's mentioned this at all, but they're also in the under 19 and under 17 women's cup finals as well in the next couple of weeks.
I'm glad you said that, because I've just realised, and I only realised that earlier when I seen an advertisement, is that under 19's cup final is actually this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's Shels.
In Ferrycarrig Park on Sunday afternoon. I think that's something now that's sort of grabbing my attention. I mean, you look at some of the players who were in that under 19s team for Athlone, like a lot of them are playing senior football at this stage and sort of coming on. The likes of your Digans, your Murphy O'Connors, Mary Phillips, they're all that sort of young age, and even young Ciara O'Neill as well as at 18. Like
Isabel Ryan is underage as well, I think. So there's plenty of talent. Anyone from Bows strike you? Because I was impressed by a couple of the Bows players, even in defeat. Like right, Sarah
I'll let you.
has impressed me no end whenever I've seen her this season. I know she got injured early on, missed a couple of games, but I was really impressed with her. Just the tenacity, the go forward ball every time. I thought she was really, really good. And another one who really caught me, 16 years of age, Ava Brennan. I just thought she was top notch at the weekend. And you know, sometimes, yeah, you can get beaten and you can have disappointing seasons, but I think Ken Kiernan takes a lot from that. Like Sarah Power, I think she's like 20, 21, is she? If she's even that, she might not be. Ava Brennan, 16. Like, if they can keep those players, and they
Savannah Kane and her 17-year-old.
Yeah, and like there's some, and like obviously they've got a bit of experience there. Rachel Kelly, Lisa Murphy, Tegan Ruddy have all been around. Even Fiona Donnelly and Anna McAvoy have played a lot of games at this level. Katie Malone probably in there as well. So they have that little bit of experience, backbone at the back. And then these youngsters just playing with no fear ahead of them just seem to have that ability to just grab a game and go. They don't quite have that finished product yet, but they're not that far off. Particularly, I thought Ava Brennan, when she got stuck in the second half of that game, and she looked like she could make something happen. That's impressive against the league champions at 16 years. on their patch.
You'd swear we had this conversation off air, because the amount of times that I've had conversations with people about the two players that you've actually just mentioned there. Ava Brennan's been brilliant all year. She's been very, very good for them. She's probably should win Bowes probably Player of the Year. Yeah, looking at then Sarah Power. Sarah Power for me, the game that stands out in particular for me for Sarah Power is a Shelbourne at home game in Dalymount when they drew 1-1. She was the one who won the penalty for them against won the penalty for them. She was brilliant against the likes of Noelle Murray that night. Even when they put it was Christy and Megan out, and they both had an opportunity against her. I thought she was very, very good that night for Bowes. And like you look at even last year, she was very good for Treaty in the second half of the season. She was someone who, when she got out of Peamount, has really done well. And I think you're right. I think they're two players, especially that they're going to look at building upon. It's like the question you have to say is, do they need more? Yes, they need more players. The big thing for me, I think, from a Bowes viewpoint, is up top, finding the net. I think that's the biggest thing. But it's not even a Bowes thing in that case. It's, if you look at a lot of teams, like we're looking now, top scorer at the minute is 9 goals after 19 games.
And she left the league a while back, so it's a problem.
No, Jenna Slattery's top scorer.
I think Casey Howe has 9 goals as well.
Casey is 8, I think.
Oh, apologies. But like one win for Bowes, one defeat into a win would catapult them. If they were to have taken a win off Peas or Shamrock Rovers early in the season, could put them into that 5th place discussion. You know, they're not a million miles off.
Do me a favour while we're having this conversation, because I know you probably have at the hand the league table, because I think it's good context to actually have here, because it's what we had the conversation around last week, in the fact of with the likes of even Treaty getting above Bowes, like 5 wins, you're probably going to say, yeah, it hasn't been great, but the biggest thing for me when it comes to Bowes in this season is just it's a big rebuilding job, considering the amount of players that went out the door that were there last year under Sean Byrne and Pat Ray. There's a lot of players that went out there that aren't playing football. The one I'm probably biggest surprised about is that Ciara Bates Crosby hasn't appeared in the league this year. To me, she was somebody who I really, really thought very highly of when she was at Bowes. But you're right, they have a good nucleus, and if they can get a result this weekend, they could potentially leapfrog Treaty. But the other side of it then is if they don't get a result this weekend, the team they're playing this weekend could leapfrog them.
Yeah, if they beat them by more than 2 goals, they will leapfrog them. In fact, they probably.
Well, it's not even.
Yeah,
I think they drew the last time they played. So technically, on head-to-head, if DLR were to win that game.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But it is a case of Bowes just need to kind of make sure they do gather a point from that game. Treaty, of course, they face a trip to Peamount, who'll be smarting a little bit from last weekend, looking to establish themselves in that 5th spot. They'll be disappointed with that, but Treaty will have a tough task to pull off 3 points from that game in what is rumoured, and I'll say rumoured, to be Dominic Foley's last game in charge of the club. That is the rumour on the grapevine. We have no official confirmation of it. We don't like dealing in rumours, but that one's kind of, we think, fairly nailed on. Are we fair to say that, Aaron?
Yeah, it sounds, but it sounds things. It sounds, it sounds as if it's going to happen.
Is that a problem for? I know we're jumping all over the games last weekend, but
yes, if it is to be the case, it's a massive problem for me.
Because they've gone from, like, Donna Reardon came in after what had been a poor run for the club. Donna Reardon came in. It didn't get any better under Don, despite.
Yeah, but it's not even go back before Don. I'm
trying to remember.
So Dave Rooney.
Yeah, Dave Rooney.
Then it went Niall O'Sullivan. Then it went Donna Reardon.
Was it not somebody halfway through the season? Did Niall not leave halfway through the season? Could be wrong on that. I don't think he finished the season out with them.
But you get, it's nearly been a change every year.
Well, Dave was there for a couple of years. Obviously,
but Dave was there from the merger from Limerick FC into.
That was essentially the same team. Let's be honest. Yeah. So there was 4 or 5 years of reasonably good results with Dave. To be fair to Dave, and then it kind of literally fell off a cliff for a couple of years. It just didn't work for the people in position. Not necessarily their fault, but just various things. Football in Limerick being a bit of a basket case. and nobody really been able to excel in that kind of environment through the 2018, 19, 20 was a bit rough for the club and for senior football, men's and women's in the area. They've kind of got their act together, particularly under Alban last year, and then really under Dom this year. They've kind of pushed on big time from the really good, solid foundation that they received last year under Alban Heise. And now we're losing that player again. We're losing that manager again. So do they recruit another level again, or can they recruit another level again? Because at the end of the day, they are still only 7th in the league and may drop a place or two over the weekend if results don't go their way.
But the thing is, and this is where we need to be talking slightly different on Treaty United. When have Treaty United ever been this high on the table?
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It's you know what I mean. And I think if it is the case, the next potential manager will have a lot of work to do to keep. But the only thing is, though, we're seeing a lot of push being done for Treaty's women's side, and I think that will continue next season no matter what. And I think that'll allow them, if there is a managerial change, to have that springboard to sort of improve. But for me, and I said it before, Amariuliak has to be re-signed again. I think young Katie Irwin in goals has been very good for them. I think they've had some good goalkeepers this year. I think that's been a real spring for them. I like young Katie Lawley up top, has been very good at 16 as well, done really well. You've other good local youngsters in there. I'd like to see a couple of more local talent coming in there. I'm hoping that this year they're able to sort of break that monotony a little bit of players being like, it's Treaty, we don't necessarily want to go there. Like a lot of the players that would have went there last year with Alban would have been from the likes of Dublin. So hopefully they'll be able to break that stranglehold a little bit more, and we'll see more young local players within the region, because I think Treaty have definitely shown a lot of improvement this year, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the attendances or the appearances this year for Treaty, and of the top 7 players, only 2 of them are from Ireland, and that's not a problem per se, but it is a problem in terms of strength. And we talked about Athlone being in all 3 cup finals, senior, 19s and 17s, and I think that's where a club needs to be aiming at, is having that strength coming through. We've all seen clubs in the men's game and the women's game where the focus is on one team. Maybe it's a really high achieving underage side, or maybe it's the senior side, and everything else is kind of secondary and almost just token gesture of having a team ticking a box. And Athlone, as much as some people love what they do and some people maybe don't agree with maybe the style of play over the year, I know I've been a bit critical of the team, particularly under Tommy Hewitt. He has said it to me. We've talked about it off air as well. And I stand by that. I don't necessarily like the way they used to play under Tommy. Their underage sides are quite similar in style to that, but it's effective. And I think it's
five foreign-based players in that treaty, and that Athlone match day squad last weekend. 2 on the bench and 3 starters. And I think the biggest thing there that we're taking is while Athlone are putting a lot of investment in bringing players in from abroad, they have a massive emphasis on the youngsters playing.
Yeah,
and as I said, O'Neill is 18.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through the squad here because I'm looking on FPL Connect. Roisin Malloy, 22. Kate Slevin, another one, 21, come through that Galway. Sean Brennan, again, 20. I think one Kaylee Shine is 21. And then the other Kelly Brennan, 21. It's scary. And then I think Katie Keane is only 18. That is actually frightening. It's the fact that the actual players that they have are so young. We remember seeing Kate Slevin, Shauna Brennan coming through that Galway successful underage team a couple of years ago with the likes of Trace Knievy, them sort of players that were doing really, really well. And I think that's the thing about it is that, as we've said on the show multiple times, is the next generation of players, technically, they're a lot better than the previous generations because of the coaching that's been available for a lot of them at this level. So, to see the fact that Galway, the Athlone team, the average starting age, Larry Ryan is the skipper, is the oldest. The rest of them are in and around early 20s. Brenda Tabby's only 20.
Yeah.
So Maddie Gibson is 27 and Larry Ryan is 30. So that average age starting lineup was probably about 21 and a half, 22.
Yeah. We have had a couple of comments in, and I have just fact checked it. It's not really relevant to the league, but it is some sad news coming in from the world of football tonight, and that is that former Sheffield United player George Baldock has passed away. He was 31 years of age. Greek international, signed for Panathinaikos this summer, played in the 0-0 draw on Sunday with Olympiacos, and was not in the Greek squad to face England on Thursday. But has been in recent squads for them, but unfortunately passed away today. So very, very sad news for that.
Shout out to Francis who commented into that.
Yeah, thanks for that.
People who know the league, women's league, will know Francis. He's at nearly every Shelbourne home game, every away game in the capital. He's going to games all other clubs as well. He's always there, always supporting on players, and I think Shels done a little small presentation with him earlier in the season just to sort of recognise, his commitment as a fan to the club. And I think people like that is the backbone to the league.
Yeah, and if you have a comment, whether it's league related or not, and you want us to talk about it, do drop us a comment wherever you're watching us. If it's on one of the socials, just drop a comment. It will come through to us. We'll bring it up on screen if we get it in time. So do get it in nice and early, and we will see what we can do in terms of having a conversation about it. So if you think there's a player who we might not see in the league next year, let us know. If you think there's a manager whom we may or may not see in the league next year, we want to talk about that as well. And if there's a youngster coming through in your club, let us know who to keep an eye out for next year, and maybe take a look through their record underage and have a little chat about them as we wrap up the season over the next couple of weeks. We're still talking about last week's games. Let's talk about Sligo Rovers. It finally happened. We actually said last week we doubted whether it would, with fairly good foundation, and yet again they have gone and absolutely nailed it. An early goal from Muireann Devaney put them 2-1 up. She must be smarting after Athlone's league win and Sligo finishing bottom of the league. It can't be easy. I know her reasonably well at this stage.
Come on, I think Muireann, with the fact of the other sports that Muireann has had this year, I think Muireann is content in life at the minute.
She's had a good year, absolutely. Yeah, her club, Glencar Manor, they won the. She actually had a big dilemma this week because Sligo's last game clashes, I think, with a Connacht Club Championship game. I could be wrong in the fixtures. I haven't actually looked at the fixtures, but it's this weekend as well. So her side, Glencar Manor, are in that Connacht Club Championship this weekend. So interesting to see how that pans out. I must actually check the fixtures, see if they're playing or if there's a direct clash. But she won't be involved in. She may have to pick between the two. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. They, of course, won that scene.
She's got away this year where she hasn't had to pick between many. So
yeah, she won an All Ireland with Leitrim. She's gonna be happy with herself. But let's get back to Sligo Rovers. She got on the score sheet after 16 minutes. Christina Dring cancelled that out within a minute, and it looked like that might be the end of their chances of actually securing the first win of the season, albeit in their penultimate league game. But Kerry Lockley, the Donegal youngster, popped up. 10 minutes on the clock remaining, found the back of the net, and do you know what? They've deserved it for their performances this year. They probably deserved more than the 8 points they're going to finish the season on. In terms of some of the performances they've had against some of the top sides, they've pulled draws out of games they really had no right to on paper. I have a bit of a soft spot for the club, I'm not going to lie, but it would have been nice to kind of see them maybe, get more results. But how do you like the part of ways with their manager during the week? Tommy Hewitt, of course.
Nice.
We talked about him last week. Conor O'Grady came in, a club legend. He's the head of youth development in the club, involved with the girls kind of on an oversight basis, so knows the girls, knows the program. Stepped in, and I did kind of say that last week that I expected that he would be the person who would step up. Most of the coaching staff still on the bench, or at least on the Connect team sheet. So not a whole pile of change, except maybe in the manager.
Just to give you a heads up on FAI Connect management team is pulling on the day. So they would still be involved. So, because I don't know if you remember, there was an incident happened at a Peamount game last year where the person who normally does Peamount's FAI Connect was away. And on the bench, they only put James O'Callaghan. So the other guys weren't allowed in the technical area last year, and there was a bit of uproar over just because of the fact that it's one of them. But the referee's like, you're not on the card. So tough. It's the new, it's the new process. I'm gonna go out on a limb. Sligo Rovers are going to win again this weekend.
Wow. Okay. against Wexford at home.
And Wexford at home. And the reason why I say that is Wexford have absolutely nothing to play for. 4 places guaranteed. Wexford have nothing to play for. I have a feeling that Sligo Rovers are going to get one more win.
On that basis, Treaty, we'll talk about their win in a minute, 1-0 win over Galway United. They're away to Peamount this weekend. Can they make it 2 from 2 as well?
Do you know what? I have a feeling. I was thinking about this earlier, and I wonder will it happen? I wonder will the sponsors come out again and sort of put a sponsorship up for, because they done it last year against Sligo last night of the season. If they scored goals, they'd go to their academy, and they went for it that night. Like, Peamount have nothing to play for. Realistically, yes. What's the difference between finishing fifth and sixth? Not a lot, really. It's difficult to see. It's difficult to see what way Peamount sort of attack this. They won't want to lose the game, obviously, because it's Nemo's last game. But Treaty being decent against the other teams around them, and that's the biggest thing for me. Is like we've said it. Apart from losing to Bows, they beat everyone else around them. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Treaty do get something out of this game again. But I think it all depends on what Peamount show up to, whether Treaty can get 3 points in it.
Yeah. Wexford and Shamrock Rovers, they played each other last weekend as well. 2-2, the final score down in Ferrycarrig Park. Surprised by this game, or was it just kind of one of those end of season, we're kind of all mid-table? There's nothing really on in terms of jeopardy.
Come on, there was a massive thing at stake in this game. A win for Rovers would have put them in with a chance of finishing fourth, and considering where they've been at this season, you sort of would say to them it was a big game. I think when you look at this game, I think the most frustrating thing from this game is the fact that Wexford sort of let the lead slip. We have to give a shout out to young Liam McGrath. Her first League of Ireland goal last weekend, and it was a superb goal to get it. A lot of people have been talking about her this year. She missed the game against Bows because she was playing with the Ireland under-17s in a friendly. Smashing talent. She's one of them sort of players that I think we're going to be talking about a lot in the next couple of years. She come on for Kayla Bergen, who went off injured, and within a minute she had them all in the net. Like, and what a way to sort of score your first goal.
If you lose a talent like Kayla Bergen early on in the game, as on the sideline, I'm sure Hugh Strong is pulling his hair out, and all of a sudden the sub comes on. She's even like there's no more talented, but she's even as talented as Keola, and all of a sudden balls in the back of the net, and she's the result. It looks like a masterstroke. Oh, I picked her. Grand, happy days.
I'm going to give you another name for next year. We haven't seen much of her this year. She's been injured. She was injured quite a bit early in the season. Millie Daly.
Okay.
Youngster from Wexford. A lot of people were courting her last year. A lot of teams were trying to get hold of her to sign her this year. She was with Shels underage. I had a conversation with somebody in Wexford at the start of the year, and they talk very highly of her. I've seen her a little bit of her. I think she's going to be someone who, if she can stay fit, will get a couple of opportunities in pre-season and could do very well for Wexford next year.
Another player on the pitch last week who we probably should at least mention, and I suppose we better start by saying we send our thoughts in terms of the accident that happened on Sunday night on the roads of North Kerry. Savannah McCarthy was injured and has been obviously across all the papers in the last couple of days in terms of maybe the injury that she sustained, and she was pulled from, according to reports, from a burning car on Sunday evening in Kerry, and we hope she is okay. We hope she makes the full recovery. I think we say that on behalf of both of us, if that's fair enough, Aaron. But I definitely want to wish her the best of luck in her recovery. I suppose she had been in the news earlier in the summer for another driving offence. I have from from Garda source that she wasn't actually disqualified at the time of the accident, that she had appealed her conviction and therefore was entitled to be on the road. So some of the reports seem to have been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very kind of putting 2 and 2 and coming up with 5.
The problem with this, Bethany.
Oh, it looks
once one person runs with it,
yeah,
others are playing catch up to try and get. So if the first source doesn't actually get it, like if she's appealed their ban You know, she's in the hands of the judicial system. The thing for me is
we don't want to really get into that.
We all seen the picture. We've all seen the picture, and it's
Yeah.
in the news articles. The main thing is she got out of that car. She got out of that situation because you'd never want to see anybody lose their lives on the roads. It's dangerous enough in this country driving on the road, so you never want to see anybody in a sort of a serious incident or a serious accident. And you know, all we can do is wish to have the best of luck in her recovery, because she's had a horrible last 2 years when you think of injuries. The knee, then she had the ankle at the start of the season. Like she was only really getting fully fit and getting fully back into her stride. And now this, you know, depending on what the outcome of injuries was, is to how long she potentially is out of football for. But we wish her, you know, obviously the best in a speedy recovery. I'd have a lot of time for Savannah. I've known her for quite a long time, as I was telling you when we were reflecting yesterday, in terms of times we've seen her play. Like, I watched her play underage football for Ireland. I've watched her play countless games even before she had that spell abroad.
Yeah, I suppose just in terms of the stuff that has been written about her over the last couple of days, from an unofficial guy, the source, probably and most likely not responsible for the accident either. It just happened to be wrong place, wrong time. Put together with the reports that came out over the summer, it doesn't look great. The aesthetics of it, not great, but not necessarily believe what you read in the papers as being the absolute fact of the situation as well. I think the courts will do their thing in whatever way they have to over the next few months, but watch this space. Not is all as it seems, is all I will say on that. If what I've been led to believe is true, is in fact true. But again, the most important thing, delighted she's alive, delighted that she survived the crash. Hope the injuries aren't too bad, and we do hope we will see her back on a football pitch in the future, whatever way that has to happen, based on everything that's going to happen over the next few months and weeks in her recovery and other legal issues that are going on around in that situation. Let's put that to bed. Let's move on from that, because we don't like getting involved in those type of things. Shamrock Rovers, it's a disappointing kind of way to kind of wrap up a season. I know they're playing Shels at home next week. Does their season get a bit of a pickup if they manage to get a scalp and take 3 points off Shels on that game on Saturday evening, or is it just a disappointing season all round, really?
No, because realistically, all they're playing for is 5th place now. If they could have got 4th place, I think we'd look at that as quite a good recovery from where they were. They were winless in their first 8 games, and what they've done in the second half of the season, I think they deserve a lot of credit for what they've done. I think you look at the results, when they beat Shels in the All Ireland Cup semi-final, Shels probably should have scored 3 or 4 that night. The FAI Cup semi-final, the FAI Cup quarter-final against Shels, realistically, they were just cut open apart. I think from a Collie O'Neill viewpoint, yes, they've had some good scalps. The wins against Peamount have obviously been very good wins for them. The draw against Athlone was very good, but I think I'd be interested to see what sort of team he goes with this week. Does he give some players an opportunity who potentially are fringe of what he's thinking for next year? That's the sort of thing that I'm wondering what Collie will do. But I think realistically for Rovers, it's definitely been a disappointing season from where they finished last year. But there is definitely a lot of positives in terms of certain players who've stepped up this year, some of the kids who've stepped up this year, and I think that's what they need to build their future on.
In terms of where Rovers go to from here, both on the pitch and maybe in the dugout, do they stay with the same tried and trusted players that they've got, the coaching staff they've got? Are we likely to see changes? I suppose we both know Collie a long time. I know him over 2 decades from our involvement at Dublin City back in the day. Lovely guy, fantastic coach. It's football is football, and he'd be the first to admit this as well. The results aren't acceptable for a club of the stature of Rovers for this season. Does he survive this season? They were very loyal with Stephen Bradley 6 years ago when every single supporter nearly wanted him out. Is this a longer-term project that Collie can see through to the end?
This will tell us a lot. This winter will definitely tell us a lot. But the other question I would say to you then, if you're getting rid of Collie, who are you bringing in? That's the other side of it. If you can get rid of Collie and get a better manager that you know is going to be a better manager for that team to help you, then you may look at that. If you cannot get a better manager from Collie, and I think Collie admit this himself, Collie has probably taking a bit of time to adapt to women's football as well, because it's completely different than men's football. And like, there's no doubt he's had to learn an awful lot. Even the way he's sort of communicated, I'd say he's had to learn an awful lot this year. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned for Shamrock Rovers. And if they didn't pull the plug after 8 games,
Yeah,
I'm not how sure, unless Collie decides to leave, I'm not sure they may pull the plug again next year.
Yeah, interesting times ahead for that club as well. I don't think we've got through all the games last weekend. Just looking at quickly through the list, Shels and
Come
Peamount.
here, just before we do that, I actually want to give a shout out to I actually want to give I love that. I just got a text message there just as we are talking off Billy Cleary. I have boots and I will travel. I absolutely love that man. I actually didn't see him on my phone. I seen a line up down the side. I was actually gonna mention him in a different way, completely different. A shout out to I meant to say this earlier on. A shout out to Matty Gibson and the Galway City Fire Brigade. We're doing a fundraiser last week to sleep out for the Simon community. And Matty Gibson was in MDC Park last week, helping to try and drum up some support with the collection buckets and stuff like that. I posted a photo on social media. Billy was on to me last week asking, and I think it's a great initiative. You know, it's great to see people within the league, within the Irish football as well, having a good heart when it comes to things like that. And it was something that I seen, and I was like, I wanted to mention.
Yeah, she was in a photograph, I think, with her.
The other half.
Can we say it on the air with her other half?
They also made a bit of history, I think, based off what Jessica Ferry has said. Are they the first couple to win Player of the Month back to back? One on the men's, one on the women.
Well, I would say that's a very small list of couples who've won a men's award and a women's award. If any, I'd say they might be the first to win. Full stop. Never mind, unless maybe Dean Zambra won one over his career, but he may have won a first.
But it's literally he won. I think he won August. She won September.
No, but I would imagine it's a very small list of couples who have actually done that. Period. Never mind consecutive months. In terms of the game, though, if we switch our attention to that Shels Peamount game, in years gone by, this would have been a top of the table clash. This is the title decider. Not so this year because of maybe Peamount's I suppose just fall off from the top of the table over the last 12 months. Shels did have a chance going into the game of winning the league. They didn't by the end of the night, but they went into it and they took care of business. I suppose Alex Kavanagh with a strike just on 20 minutes. Kate Mooney with one either side of half time. They did their end of the bargain.
I need to stop you. You cannot turn around, and you may have missed this goal. The one thing I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to give you a bit of advice, right? Is as soon as we're finished, you're going to social media and you're searching Alex Kavanagh, or you can do it right now while I'm talking. But Alex Kavanagh, what a free kick. Absolutely buried it into the top corner from about 30 odd yards out. It's no real surprise when it comes to Alex that she does them sort of things. I've seen a couple of different videos. I've seen the FAI posted clip. Someone else posted it from a different view, and then a third person posted it from behind the goal, and it was just an absolutely sublime strike from Alex. You're on mute, or you're not talking.
I didn't want the. I did see this the other day. Yeah, no, it's impressive. Yeah, but listen, we've seen that Matty Gibson had a free kick the week before. But this is happening. Like, we're the biggest fans of the league going. This has been happening in this league for the 13 seasons it's been in existence.
Before you go any further, I'm going to throw you on the spot now.
Oh God,
whose free kick is better?
Oh, that's a good one. I think given the gravitas of the situation, I have to go to Matty Gibson one. I think given the fact that they're getting beaten, they're ahead in a title race. It looks like they're beginning to falter a bit, and they pull it back, and ultimately it gets them the draw. I know there's another goal each after that point in the game, but ultimately it does set them up to get that point that ultimately has won them the league. And I think just on that, but technically they're both quality. Like, do you know what I mean? But Gibson's is from the other side, and I don't know. I think
the curl of Gibson's, the way it starts outside, it was just sublime.
They're both quality, and I couldn't deliver either of them if I gave me 100 footballs.
You've said Peamount Shels rivalry. You've seen Peamount sort of stoking the fire a little bit last week with the social media posts of some of the old celebrations in Ferrycarrig Park. Like, it's sad to see the way the rivalry has been this year, in the sense that Shels being so on top.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have concerns with Peamount with the fact of when Nemo announced their retirement, if they get any more departures, they're going to need a massive rebuilding job to get back to that sort of rivalry with Shels, because we had it when Robbie Mulligan left after the year after Eileen went to UCD Waves. He done that year, and then it was a really, really young squad. That was when you had the likes of Niamh Farley, Lucy McCartan, Lauren O'Callaghan, them sort of players who come in and first settled in. Amber Barrow would have been there around that time as well. And I think for them to sort of rebuild to where they need to be competitive, there's going to be a lot of talent ID and a lot of additional player potential needed to get Peamount back to where they need to get to.
Well, let's talk about Peamount for a minute in terms of players, because we've heard one player is definitely hanging up her boots and gloves at the end of the weekend. There's a few other players. I personally don't think any of them will go, but let's talk about 2 or 3 specifics. Jenna Barrell, not the right side of 30 in terms of.
Well, Jenna's not there. Jenna's not travelling. Jenna went travelling after the Champions League, so that's another player sort of gone out of it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this on her, and you'd start to mention her name there. How much more can Chloe Maloney do what she's doing?
The travel is unbelievable.
The travel, the commitment is unbelievable. It's mind-boggling, especially considering playing intercounty Gaelic football as well to add to that travel. And I think a lot of credit has to be given to Chloe for the amount of travel she does and the sort of movement she does to get up and down the country on a regular basis to play for Peamount, and to how much more can Chloe do that? It must be very difficult.
I'm not going to try and pile pressure on another player as well, but Dervla Byrne is obviously a member of that squad. Leitrim have been promoted to senior ranks in the Gaelic this year. Dervla, accomplished Gaelic footballer as well, of course, in a family steeped in it. Her brother Keith has won All-Stars at a Tailteann Cup level in the past. She is good enough to make that team, and will there be pressure on her from the local area at home to kind of make herself available to Leitrim? There definitely will be phone calls had. There definitely will be conversations had. She has nearly always picked Gaelic or soccer when they've clashed in the past. She's got a very busy study life as well at the moment in terms
Didn't
of.
She play in UL when she was in UL? She played Gaelic football as well.
She won an O'Connor Cup with the UL. She'll walk into the Leitrim squad if she makes herself available 100%. But it's just a case of.
Then the other side of it is you like, I know she's still quite young, but you've got the likes of Sive Doyle, with the day job and stuff like that, quite busy. It's interesting to see how much, like, when a lot of them players have won an awful lot as well, and there's an awful lot going on outside of football. Like, it'd be an interesting off season for Peamount, I think.
Yeah, I know we talked maybe 12, 18 months ago about maybe where the future was for Peamount. I still see them on that trajectory of maybe not being able to compete with the bigger names, the bigger traditions in the medium term. It's a big rebuilding job. Like, we haven't mentioned Karen Duggan's name. Again, I can see Karen Duggan playing in like no more than the likes of Sylvia G back in the day of being 40, still playing in this league.
Oh, if that body holds up, Karen Duggan is a Rolls Royce of football. If the body holds up, I can't imagine we'll see Karen Duggan setting off to the sunset anytime soon. If she was, that could be a massive catalyst that puts a massive crumble into Peamount. But I hope not.
We do have a comment in. You mentioned him earlier in the show, and you kind of outed him for stuff he said privately, private message. He's no shrinking violet. He's well able to put a comment on his own name as well. Billy Cleary joins us, as he's been a former guest of the show, friend of the show. Quick one for you. Fair play to all the LOI players who togged out for the universities this week as well. Billy, we won't talk about the spelling. Representing the university, you have to learn to spell a university. But all jokes aside, I think the work that goes in, and I'm a big advocate of that level of the game, as we've talked about on the show, and my own background with the university sport for the guts of a decade through the noughties is well spoken about on the show as well. But the work that goes into that level, it's a huge breeding ground for young players. We've seen so many of them come out, some of them from the academy that Billy is building down there in Galway, have come out now and won a league title with Athlone. They've won a Avenir Sports Cup final with Galway in both seasons over the last 2 weeks. They've won FAI Cups. Like, these players that are developing from that academy, we've seen them come out of Cork.
Got to say something controversial.
Go on. Are we going to get Billy giving us
No, we're not going to get Billy. No, we're not going to get Billy. Billy Cleary's creating this environment, this talent group in a college course that isn't being promoted for being a football course or having football courses. Like he's getting the sort of players that IT Carlo used to dream of get or used to get all the time. He's getting them now, and he's getting them because Galway are showing that they can win stuff and they can be very competitive at underage at a college level now compared to the likes of IT Carlo. Because remember, IT Carlo walked football for a couple of years. Them days are gone. Where it's now the likes of.
We've just been informed that Mr. Cleary is no longer involved with the University of Galway. There was a comment. That's his own from the horse's mouth, folks. From the horse's mouth. Sorry to hear that, but it is a very important aspect of the development of the player in this country, and I think the intervarsities and the colleges leagues can. He has clarified he retired. He wasn't sacked. So just in case anyone's wondering,
he's too busy. Like, I don't know how people like that have so much commitment for football, and it always amazes me. Like, I give out about the amount of time that I have to spend on social media, sort of doing stuff on a weekly basis. But if I look at a manager of a college's team or a manager of a League of Ireland team, consider the amount of their time they spend a week on football, like, it's chalk and cheese. I'm nowhere near what they'd spend, and it takes a lot of commitment.
It generally gets about 3 years in, and it's the football or the family. One of them has got to give, and I think most people have their right head screwed on in that respect. In terms of going back to that, just chat about university sport, I think the impact that the World University Games team generates in terms of the opportunity to go to a multi-sport event and also to go to that effectively World Cup for that level of the game. It's a huge opportunity. We've seen so many players come through the league. Nearly all of the top players in the league in the last 10, 12 years have been to a World University Games at some point in the last decade or so. It's changed. Football's not
as many. It's like, to me, you know my opinion. I'm not a massive of university football. I think it is important, but to me, the one thing in life that I look upon at any player who goes abroad is if you can have some education for after football, because you're not going to make the money to retire.
But that's a complete double standard in terms of saying you're not like for university football, but they need an education. I think
because we're of the opinion that, you know.
Let me just finish. If you take as well as the education, you've got to look at what the universities bring to this sphere as well. They bring really good facilities. They bring decent budgets for coaches, and for all of the stuff that the clubs struggle to pay. And we hear about all the time about particularly the underage development teams of having money to pay for these things. Colleges have budgets for that sort of stuff. They don't cover all of it, but they do cover the vast majority, and it really is a good breeding ground for both young coaches and young players coming through. We are running out of time. I don't want to get hung up on university football, and this is not the.
We do need to have a conversation on DLR tonight.
Okay, let's chat about DLR. Results last week. They got a good win. They'll be happy. Sorry, they didn't play last week. Apologies. Or did they? I'm confused now. They are out against Bohemians away this week. They need a win just to give them some sort of a chance of climbing up the table. 10th is a disappointing season for them.
Yes, but I think they've shown a lot of improvements. I think the news come out today from DLR Waves is massive. And you're going to look at me because you're being that busy all day. I will fill you in, don't worry. They've announced that Laura Heffernan has signed a new deal with the club. To me, that is big, because we were talking last week about Waterford. Laura being from the southeast, she'd obviously be someone who a lot of people throw names at. I think Laura, continuity for DLR, she had done something last year that she'd not been able to do, or the last year that Graham had sort of struggled to do, and that was to keep players, kept the majority of her squad. I think the continuity of keeping Laura will sort of help massively to them younger players. How good they've been this year, they've been up and down, they've been inconsistent at times, they've made mistakes where they probably shouldn't have made mistakes. But like as we said earlier, and you just alluded to it there, the fact they're playing Bows this weekend. If they beat Bows this weekend, they could go ahead of, they could potentially climb a couple of places. If they beat Bows, they go ahead of Cork, who are finished, and they go ahead of Bows and finished 8th, and then you're talking 8th compared to 10th is potentially a different avenue. And I just think for me, DLR, they're in the sort of boat that Peamount are in. Financially, it's very difficult to compete. we seen, even when you mentioned university team, I looked at DLRW's social media the other day, and they were posting sort of the colleges, the college university team, and I was looking at the players and that, and I was like, if you could have half of them playing, or you could have a lot of them playing for DLR Waves, how big that would be. Like, you've got the likes of Avian Clancy and all in UCD now. Like, if you could have players like that sort of playing for the college team, like, I think to me that'd be a massive step and a massive help for the likes of DLR Waves, because the thing is, the only way DLR are going to be anyway successful in this league is if DLR can find something else to offer these sort of players, to get these players
like
to come and play for the club.
The tie-in with UCD has to be looked at. I know it existed before. I know it broke down, but I think it's a necessity for both teams. I think for the colleges sides and for the National League sides, that they just need to work together. Maybe
100%.
maybe not as one club, but maybe as a program between the two, and one feeds to the other, and one supports the other financially, or whatever it's going to be. But it has to be something along those lines. In terms of the games this weekend, let's try and wrap this up as quickly as we can. Bows and DLR, who's going to get that 8th place spot, or is it just going to be a draw and there's no change?
I think it'll be a draw. These games tend to be draws between these two teams.
0-0 draws tend to be as well. But do go out and support if you're around. There are a couple of other games in the capital. The first one being Peamount and Treaty United. Peamount looking to restore some pride. They do have that 5th place. They will be looking for bragging rights over Shamrock Rovers, so a win could give them the edge in that particular competition.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if both teams don't win this week. The thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if both teams don't win this weekend. Then again, I wouldn't be surprised if both teams do win this weekend. I think Peamount, they'll want to finish on a high for Nemo, and they'll want to finish on a bang. I think Treaty go in there looking to sort of grab that one last result and solidify that 7th place. Won't be easy for Peamount, but I think Treaty might get a point.
You said earlier you reckon this could be like Dublin Bus, wait all season for one to come along, and all of a sudden 2 wins come back to back. Sligo Rovers against Wexford side with nothing to play for, comfortably in 4th place, can't be caught, can't catch 3rd. They could play a lot of youngsters, particularly if there's a threat of Waterford poaching a couple of players through the off season, just to kind of give them that taste of being in that Wexford jersey this season. Can you really see Sligo picking up a win here?
Yeah. I'm going to put my head in an block. I think Sligo got a result. Kylie Murphy probably going to score a hat-trick now.
Yeah, although she has a habit of missing penalties down in Sligo, but we won't talk about that. In terms of, that may have just happened once. Apologies, Kylie. Please don't.
That was the game that Sligo beat them in, wasn't it?
Yeah. In injury time, it was a great game. Galway United Athlone and Shamrock Rovers versus Shels. These 2 games happened an hour and a half later than the other 3. Set up that way because of, I suppose, the title run in. Galway Athlone will be live on TG Car at I think it's 5:30.
4:30. Athlone, Galway are winning that game.
Okay.
Athlone are making wholesale changes, and anybody with any sort of a knock will not be involved. But the other side of it from Kieran Kilduff is, I do not think Kieran Kilduff is going to go and spoil Sunday's under-19s final. I think the players that he can afford not to play from that 19s team, we may not see them involved.
Okay, so you could even see a couple of 17s coming up and playing.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some 17s get a run either, just because I think the way Athlone are going at the minute, Athlone can finish on such a high with as many trophies as possible through all the age grades.
How big an achievement would it be? Like, winning the league title is just, for a club like Athlone, it's almost like Leicester winning the Premier League, let's be honest, in terms of sporting achievement. I know they've been thereabouts, but realistically, going the full season and actually lifting the league title is huge for the club. And congratulations to everybody.
I'll give it a better analogy.
3. I think if they can do a clean sweep of the 3, it's probably the biggest achievement in the league in the 13 years it's been around.
Yeah. Absolutely. It sort of reminds you of someone in the Gaelic football sense of Westmeath getting to an All-Ireland final or something like that. That doesn't happen that often, but the way they've been shown that development the last couple of years has been astronomical. And with that age profile of that team, providing they can keep them, they'll be there for another couple of years.
Bonus points for not picking Leitrim in that example. In terms of the last game, then Shamrock Rovers Shels. What are we looking at there? There's local rivalry. There's a lot of former players on both sides.
I think I think there's going to be a lot of there's a bit of animosity here. I don't think Shamrock Rovers are going to forget what happened in that cup quarter final with the and it's listen. It's not really that big of a thing when Gemma Quinn with the flag in the hat on the centre circle. That photo went all over social media. I mean, you're seeing a lot of outlets using that photo. Shamrock Rovers won't like that. I think Shamrock Rovers will be going out here to sort of try and finish on a high. Shels are in a dangerous position here. Okay, for a number of reasons. A, you don't want to pick up any injuries going into that cup final the week later. The under-19's playing the day after in the final. But the problem for Shels is Shels don't have the sort of depth in squad that maybe Athlone have, in the sense of their depth is going to be kids who would be playing in that under-19's final.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of manage and how do you sort of combine both? That will be very interesting for Shels, and like I have a feeling for Shels. Like it's hard to see how they sort of want to go full pelt in a game like this with what's at stake the week after.
Yeah, absolutely. Potentially, I suppose it has been reported on every single media platform. I'm seeing it's on the BBC, it's on the Irish Sun, it's on RTE, it's on the FAI social media accounts. Who the player we wouldn't name at the top of the show. We have asked permission from the club. They have an embargo in place. We're not going to break the embargo, even if everybody else has. But you don't need to be a genius. Any quick Google of the league will tell you who it is. But there is breaking news: the player will be playing her last involvement this week.
BBC and all.
BBC, it's on the BBC. Yeah.
Wow. Well, considering had spells in the UK, it's no real surprise.
Yeah, and over half a century of caps as well. Like you don't need to be genius to work out who we're talking about. It's all over the news. You can't have missed it. If you're watching this show, you already know. But we are obliging the club by honouring their request. We're not sure, but we do think there was maybe a clerical error on socials that just leaked earlier than it was meant to. Someone's scheduler tweet just automatically hit publish rather than schedule, and unfortunately it broke. Maybe unfortunately
it's not even that, Bethany. It's they actually had it on the website as well, and if you Google the player's name and you Google the word retirement, it'll actually bring you up a link to Shamrock Rovers website.
Okay, fair enough. Well, the BBC have replaced that now, but that's a different story. You've also named the club. Thanks for that. Anyway, we shall move on. We've overrun this week. We try to keep it on the hour mark. We're a little bit later, but there's so much. I suppose we finished once again just by sending our best wishes to Savannah McCarthy. We really hope. I think on behalf of everybody in the league, I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody, but I think there will be nobody in the league who would wish her anything but the speediest of recoveries and whatever her journey back to football may be. Wish her the best of luck with everything that's going to be in her path over the next few months and possibly years, depending on how serious the injuries are. We know she just came back from an ankle injury. It appears it's the same ankle that she damaged that is currently injured again. So that may or not be an impact. But listen, Sav, we're all thinking of you across the entire league, and hopefully it all comes good for you over the course of the next few months and whatever. Aaron, anything to finish up with before we rock off to another week and another one in the history books?
No, not this week. Next week, looking forward to cup final media day next week, and all those blazing towards cup final.
Yeah, it's exciting times ahead for the league and for Athlone in particular. 3 cup finals to come over the next few weeks. So hopefully from the provincial side of things, and I'm representing the provincial side of this partnership, Aaron, it's great to see the country bumpkins coming up and taking the titles. Here's to a couple.
I love that the league title has left the East Coast for the first time. I'm hoping it goes on a sea of the country in the next couple of years, because women's football needs that. Women's football can't just have a Dublin dominance.
Absolutely. You don't knock out Wexford. I know they're East Coast, but they'll definitely not agree with being called Dublin, even though some people see it as a suburb of Dublin. It's most definitely the countryside in this country. Anyway, that is it for us this week. Thanks to everyone who contributed to the sad news that was shared with us by Francis and the death of George Baldock. Rest in peace, George, former Sheffield United player and Greek international, passed away. He was only 31 years of age, so very, very sad news there. To the players who are going to be playing their last games this weekend, those we know about, those we can't talk about, and those who we don't even know about yet. Enjoy it. soak it all up, and thank you for everything you've done for us over the league. We will be back over the next 2 weeks. We, of course, have to round up the last round of games next week and the cup final the week after. It's going to be a couple more.
Then we'll have to preview the internationals.
Yeah, we may get around to that. You know, it's only the internationals. Who really cares about that?
It's only the European playoffs.
It's only a game. It's fine. We'll hopefully have a European Championship to look forward to next summer. More on that as we develop through the next couple of weeks. Aaron, as always, a pleasure. We will be back with you again next week. Talk to you then.